Hi guys, this is Vishal here from Trapcode. So in this video, we will understand how to make an API call, store the response in browser session and use the same response in another API call. Response of one API call is getting used as request for another API call, right? So whatever response is coming from one API, maybe we want to use some fields or some values in another API call just immediately, just after that, right? Or maybe in some other step. So we will store it in browser session and use it to make another API call and see how that can be done. Okay, because there are several cases when you have to call multiple APIs one by one, and maybe the API which is getting called at number second or third is maybe need some values which are coming as part of first API or a API which is getting called previously. So let's see how that can be done. So here we have a collection called project. We have created a simple collection form, and we also have a Zeno collection called project. Okay, and we also have the same project in Airtable. So what we will do, we will create a project record in Trapcode and we will send it to Zeno. Zeno will return the Zeno ID, Zeno date created. Okay, so this is how the API looks like for Zeno for new record creation. You send 3 parameters, name, description, distance, and in response it returns you 5 parameters. Now we will push these 5 parameters to Airtable. So we will make one call, it will create a record on Zeno, and at the same time whatever the response is coming from Zeno, it will create one record in Airtable without us doing anything explicitly, and it will use these parameters which are part of the response from Zeno API will be used as parameter request parameter for Airtable API. Okay, so let's see how we do it. So I'll go back to Trapcode. Let's go and create an external API. The very first API, this we will use to push data to Zeno and just create record. Okay, so I'll say create API, create project on Zeno post call. So I'll just go to the API documentation and copy the parameters. So this is the path, which is fine. Request is get. Collection, we will be using the project collection data. So I'll just map the collection. API is open, so I'll just not pass any access token or bearer token, and let map the fields. So fields are name, description, status. So these are the fields which will come from the form. From form it will go to Trapcode collection, and from there it will go to Zeno. Description, and let's say status. Okay, and we'll not do anything, we'll just say save. Okay, so we'll create an event, that event will save the data in Trapcode, and that data will get used to make an API call to Zeno. Okay, now let's go create an event. So I'll just create an event. I'll say create project on Trapcode and then on Zeno. Okay, so what it will do, it will first save the data in Trapcode collection. So I'll just save data in collection, which is project collection, saved in Trapcode, error. Then I'll say send to Zeno, external API send data to Zeno. Okay, send to Zeno. Now we will choose this option, save API response in browser session. So this is something which we are going to use, right? What we are saying, whatever the response will come from Zeno, just store it in browser session, and I'll show you how this looks like. Okay, and then we'll use the same values to send the data to Airtable. Okay, and we'll see how we access these session values in APIs. Okay, I'll just save. That's all. Let's go to the page and bind this. We'll bind it to the form. So I'll go to collection form settings and choose the event which we just created, which is saying create a project on Trapcode and then push it to Zeno. Okay, so let's preview. So it is here. Let me create some data. Before that, let's just erase the data which is already there in Zeno to make it more clear. So I'll just delete these 2 records. Okay, and let's create some project A, B, C. Let's say test ABC something. Now this will push this data to Zeno, and whatever the response will come, it will store in browser session. So in browser session, you can, if you want to see where it gets stored, so it gets stored under application in session storage. So as of now, this is empty, right? So let's make a call and see. Submit, saved in Trapcode, sent to Zeno, and here you can see this is the response which it is coming from Zeno. So this is the response: name, description, status, some created it, and ID. Okay, so this is the data which is actually coming as the response of that API which we just called to Zeno. So if I go to Zeno and reload the page, so the ID is 12 and some created it which is coming as a timestamp. So you are seeing some different values, but this is the ID which is coming from Zeno, and this is the timestamp which is coming from Zeno, and these are the things which are also coming from Zeno API response. So we have made a call to Zeno, and the response, whatever the response is coming, we have stored in the browser session. Now let's say I want to use the same response to make a call to Airtable and create another record in Airtable. Okay, so let's go and see our Airtable. This is how my Airtable looks like. So I'll just add one more field. Let's say Zeno ID, which is a single text. Okay, and let's say one more field which is Zeno created add, which is a timestamp, right? So let's see if we can use timestamp. It's not there, so let's just use it as a text field only. Okay, so now I want to create a record on Airtable also, and the record should get created from the response which is coming from Zeno API. Okay, so this is the API documentation of Airtable. Okay, let me create some dummy data so that it updates the documentation so that we see these two more fields. Okay, so now these fields are here. Okay, so now I want to send these fields, right? Zeno ID and all. So to create a record in Airtable, let me see, this is the API, right? Create records. I think this is the one. So this is how it is expecting the data. And this is the URL and authorization and key. Okay, so now let's create one more API, and it should create the data on Airtable, and it will take all the values from browser session, right? So let's go back to Trapcode. I'll just close this. I'll go to external APIs, and let's say create project on Airtable. Let's go and copy the URL. It's a post call, and this is the URL, right? So I'll just copy the URL. Post is code, map data. Now we are not sending data from collection, right? Because we can actually send from collection because we already have collection form getting submitted. So the data is used in Zeno, but here let's just use all the data from the session, from the data which is stored in session, because we anyways have all the fields which are coming from Zeno. Okay, so I'll not mark data. I'll say custom JSON. Okay, because it's a complex JSON, so we'll just use custom JSON. Okay, but before that, let's complete this authorization because the API is secured. So I'll say in the headers part authorization, bearer, and the token. Okay, so this is your token. So I've already created my Airtable secret. So I'll just copy paste it. I just pasted it. Other is content type, application JSON. This is optional because we anyway send it, but yeah, it's completely up to you. You can send it if you want. Okay, now custom JSON. So we want to create a new record on Airtable. So this is how the JSON looks like. So this is the JSON to create multiple records. So we will just create one record. So we will erase this part. I'll explain. So we will just erase the other part. Okay. So this is how the JSON looks like to create one record in Airtable. Now all these values should come from session, basically the response of Zeno, right? So name, what I'll do, I'll just go and click show fields. Here we will say browser session. Now we want to pick all the values from browser session. Okay, so I'll say browser session, click. So this is asking to replace the key because builder does not know what all keys are there, right? Because those are some in different browser and a different URL, right? So I'll just click and then replace this key with the actual key for which the value I want to send. So I'll go here, inspect element, and just copy all the keys, right? And you need to make sure that if it is at a nested level, then you need to copy the complete JSON path, right? So you can actually do it by right clicking, copy property path like this. So I copied for name. Let's go here and just replace. So it is at name. Same thing for description. I can do the same. So let's first copy this, paste everywhere, and then just replace the specific key. Status is fine. Priority and start date we don't have, so I'm not sending it. Okay, Zeno ID we have it. So I'll say okay. Now I'll just replace the values. Name is name. Description I want to pick from this field, which is description. Status I want to pick from this status field. Okay, after that created it I want to pick from this field, and ID I want to pick from this field. Okay, so we have done all the mapping. So here you can see current. So this is, you can highlight all the variables. So we are saying pick all the values from session and use them to make another API call to Airtable and create record. Okay, so I'll just say save settings. That's all what we need. So now let's go to our event, and where we were sending data to Zeno, we will say send one more API call to Airtable, right? I'll say create project on Airtable, same thing. Okay, send to, but this time it is taking all its values from browser session, right? And let's see if we want to save the response of Airtable also, we can just check this again. And let's say maybe let's save in a custom JSON key. I'll say Airtable underscore response. Let's see. So whatever the response will come from Airtable API, it will get stored in this variable. And at the same time, you can again use this session or use the response from Airtable in another API, or maybe the combination of Zeno and Airtable response in some other API, or store it in session or display or whatever you want to do, right? So that can be done. So now it will create a record. It will send to Zeno. Whatever the response will come, use the same response to send the data to Airtable. So now let's go and test this. So I'll just empty this. Okay. I'll reload the page. Let's go and check the data in Zeno and Airtable. So in Airtable, we have this. I think we need to make sure that we pass only this statuses, otherwise Airtable will reject, okay, because it is a fixed value from this list. So let's send something from this list. Zeno has 3 records. Okay, so let's create a new record, and Airtable has 4 records. Okay, well, let me just delete this. So they both have 3 records. Okay, so now let's create a new record, a new project. Let's say project April. From description, status, as I mentioned, this need to match the status which Airtable is expecting. So I just say done. You can also build a drop down from Airtable data, which we'll cover in some other video. Okay, these are all non-mandatory. Okay, so now I will save this. It will first send this data to Trapcode, then it will send the data to Zeno, and from Zeno it will send the data to Airtable, and whatever the response will come from Airtable is stored in browser session. Okay, so let's see. I'll click submit. So it has saved the data in Trapcode. Then it has sent the data to Zeno and then sent the data to Airtable. And here, if you see here, this is the response which was coming from Zeno. So now the ID has changed to 13, created at 13, and it has actually made a call to Airtable. And here you see Airtable response. This is what we have given while configuring the API, that whatever the response is coming from Airtable, store it in a JSON key with the name Airtable response. So this is the response from Airtable. Records 0, created time, fields, description, all these things, right? We will display this data here, right? But let's go and see how the data looks like on Airtable and Zeno. So let's first go to Zeno. So project April got created in Zeno. Let's go to Airtable. So project April got created on Airtable. Project April. And if you see, it has the Zeno ID 13, which is the Zeno ID of the newly created record. And it also has Zeno created a timestamp, which Zeno API returned. So the response from Zeno API is getting used as a request in Airtable API. So, and you can call any number of APIs like this, right? And if you want to display some of this data, we can just do something like this. So let's go here. Let's go display a heading. So let's say I want to display Airtable ID. Let's say this is Airtable ID. Okay, so I'll say copy property path. That's all what we need. I'll go to the settings, say get data from browser session, and just paste the complete path. That's all. Okay, and let's reload this page. So it should display the Airtable ID somewhere here. So here it is. So this is how you work with session and external APIs. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you again in the next video. Bye-bye.